NTV, good morning. If you've just joined us, welcome aboard. My name is David Rukasi. Of course, I am here with the lovely Mala Kivera Odira. Did I pronounce that finally? Finally, I've been struggling to get
David,
that.
I'll find you.
Mala
I'll seriously find
Kivera Odira. It's complicated. It's not complicated. It's not one of our usual names. It's usually Emmanuel something. You know, yours has like 3 lines. It's complicated. But I'm here with the lovely Mala. Good morning. If you've just joined us, the hashtag is morning at NTV. You can join us at any point of the show and share your views on the topics that we will be talking about. Right about now, please allow us get into Kickstarter. Today we're going to be talking about indigenous languages. We have been talking about Kiswahili here during the break, and it's quite interesting that these days when you meet children, they can speak all the English in the world, but when you ask them to talk just a sentence or two from where their parents come from or where they hail from, they can literally say a word. So today we're going to take a look at indigenous languages and why they are being eroded. In the studios here with us we have Mr. Emmanuel Lubega, who happens to be a Kiswahili language instructor. I've also learned that he's a journalist like me, and he's been a journalist for the last 12 years. So that's quite interesting. He works with DW, and he's worked with another media house in the
Jumuiya Kiswahili Media.
Jumuiya Kiswahili Media.
Yeah.
Good morning, Mr. Emmanuel.
Morning, how are you?
Fine. Kiswahili
David, and this is
Mala.
Now, the name I got was, you called her Odira. It's Odera.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you, Mr. Emmanuel.
Going by the discussion actually we are going to,
yeah,
is that, for example, we should pronounce her name correctly. Odera, not Odira.
Odera.
Yeah.
It's a pronunciation thing.
Yes. Yeah, and those are some of the things that we are looking at, I think, in this discussion.
Yes.
Thank you.
Pronunciation makes a huge difference.
Very huge difference.
Okay.
Yes, please.
That's interesting. So, my apologies, Odera. My apologies.
I'll still find you.
Later on. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lubega, for coming in studios. And we're talking about indigenous languages and why we are not so proud as we used to be about our mother tongue, so to speak, our identity as Africans. So why do you think that with time, as time passes by, we feel that our languages are less cooler, so to speak? Now the question that it has been, making rounds, and what the youth call it is, it's not cool to speak in my mother tongue. It's not, So why are we seeing this heritage being eroded so fast?
Actually, if we remove everything that an African should own, but remain with the language, the African remains a very rich person. Our African culture is very rich, but unfortunately, just as you say, the new generation, and I don't blame the youth, I blame their parents. It's the parents who think that because they have their money, they have made it in life, then their children don't need this language. I mean, they don't value the people back at home where they came from. Some of them, cannot even, visit their people in the villages. They can, these days there's mobile money, so they can just send them mobile money to show that there is still that connection. That's the very unfortunate part. The parents are largely to blame, and largely to blame because of the lifestyle. And also that belief that education cannot be achieved if people don't learn English or don't speak English. Then this is where the business people have taken advantage of, because the education system has been taken over by business people, and business people are looking at getting big numbers of children into their schools. And in that case, the issue here is how well do they fare in the national exams, for example. You've had this outcry about the exams recently.
Right.
It's the kind of thing, I myself am an educationist before I think I even become a journalist. The thing is that in education, as teachers, we are taught, or educationists, we are taught that, what is education? Education is imparting that feeling of belonging to a child. When you talk about belonging, it means the language. Where do you belong? Which is your language? Which is your community that you live in? So belonging. attitude. What attitudes do you develop? Then you come to the knowledge and skills. Now, knowledge and skills cannot be applied if you can't express yourself first in your mother tongue. And that's why I like the education system in Uganda. You know, what should be on paper is that from pre-primary to P4, children should be taught, to P3, children should be taught in their local mother tongue.
Right.
And then P4 is a transition class where a language like Kiswahili, a regional language, should be introduced.
But is it happening though?
That's what I said on paper. Now, it's not happening because our parents think that the local language has no use to the children. But they forget that it's through the local language that the child will build a connection, David, with their parents, their extended family, you know, the grandparent, the uncles, and so on. That's the unfortunate part, that we are cutting this off because we are not showing the sense of belonging to the child. The child thinks that they belong just to their parents. You remember that thing that it takes a village to bring up a child.
Mr. Olwega, I'm sorry, I'm going to, we've had this discussion last week where we have been talking about the education system and how the old doesn't apply today. The world has evolved.
Yes.
Demands have changed.
Exactly.
Of what use is teaching my child that local language for 3 years, and yet they're not going to be able to apply it anywhere in the future, where the demands are now demanding that we learn some Chinese, we learn some French. So it looks like our indigenous languages are of not that much use anymore. So why push the children to even learn them?
Yes, it is our indigenous languages that teach us the values of life. It is our indigenous languages that teach us those virtues in life. That means, as I said, belonging. You know, you value people, you value people's property, you value people's time, you respect people. Those are the things. So if we take away respect, virtue, and any other virtues, humility and so on, sympathy, that's when we have high rates of corruption. You know, corruption has become a culture. It's normal. For you know, somebody's clever if they have performed an act of corruption. It's because they don't value the people who should deserve these services, and it's because they don't value the people they belong to.
But
that's why it's like the left hand stealing from the right hand.
But can these values only be articulated in our mother tongue? Can't we be taught the same values in English, for example?
We can teach the values in English and so on. But as we say, how does somebody express themselves? What their thoughts and so on? It's through language. Now, if you can't talk to the people you live with, and you are detached, there's a barrier between you and them, you cannot share your feelings with them. You cannot share the values with them. Now, the Japanese children from grade 1 to grade 3 do not do examinations. They do tests. Why are they doing tests and focusing more on, not focusing on examinations? It's because during those 3 years, they're teaching children values, how to value nature, that's the environment, as we say, how to value other people, how to value things that are around you, that don't take things for granted. Don't think that the things around you just happened. They were created by people before you. So when you say that, as David says, that there are things that we don't need in life, you know, we are looking towards globalization. There are things that, it's when you lose your roots, then you can't stand. When a house has no foundation, it can't stand.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like when you look around the world now, look at our neighbors in Rwanda. They're in a fight to make sure that they learn more English.
Yes.
When you look at Asian countries, we've had very many teachers leave this country and go to Asia to teach English. So it looks like like you said, globalization. We are all looking to have a global language that we share. When you look at the children today and you look at intermarriages, I'll wake up in the morning and get a lady from, let's say, the north.
Yes.
I am from the south or wherever. Now these children are caught up in the middle, where, okay, what language should we teach?
Cultural dilemma.
Cultural dilemma.
Yes.
Yes. So, is there a bit where we can separate culture and languages? Because now
these are inseparable. As I said, yes, we are looking towards being global. But what are the global behaviors? You talk about globally, they call it ethics. Ethics at work. But all these ethics, they should be inborn, they should be natural, but they should be nurtured right from childhood. So you can't start developing ethics at an older age just to keep your job. If you don't have these ethics right from home, the home is the best school that a child can have. Now, when you come to that issue, whereby now we've got cross-cultural marriages, intercultural marriages, that's very good for us. Now, where is the dilemma? The dilemma is that the parents should have a conversation that, yes, we've come into a relationship, but which direction should we take this relationship as far as our children are concerned? Yes, usually in the culture here, the child belongs to the parent, the family, the father's side. Okay, let the child learn the father's side, the language from the father's side, so that they can interlink, they can connect with those people. Let the mother also, let the child also learn something from the mother's side. And that's why usually we had that situation of whenever there is holidays, children go to the villages to stay with the grandparents, to stay with the other relatives, to connect with them. But now when they're disconnected, the children live in a society where they don't even have a feeling for the neighbor. That's why you see when somebody bypasses you in the corridor here at the place of work, doesn't even say hi to you. It's because they are disconnected from other people. They just think about themselves. That is the selfishness. And this selfishness brings the greed. And this is the greed that brings corruption. Okay? So it is that kind of society. That's why now, as I've said, this Western world which we think we are imitating is actually doing the things the other way around. They value the ethics right. Just as I've told you, look at the example of the Chinese, the Japanese, the Europeans. They're learning all these languages for global connections, for economic interests. But they are also making sure that their children learn the social norms, the values in society. And that's why when they come and practice them, they hear, then you say, why are they donating to us, you see? Why do they donate to us? Why do they care about us? It's because they have grown to love people, to value nature. That's why they say, they feel for us. Yeah?
Is it that they feel for us, or there's something else
they want
that you
something.
don't?
Yeah, for some things, yes, that's what they always think. But it's because, for us, we put ourselves on the receiving end. We don't want to give back. Now, you talk about, for example, Kiswahili. Kiswahili is being learned globally. Is it adding value to these people? What are they coming to do with us? It's because they want to learn our social, and they're wondering, why are Africans having the challenges they are facing? But they come to see that they can only connect with us if they speak a language that is ours. Okay? That's why universities all over the world are learning, because this is a language embracing all African cultures, for example.
Right. And of course, following that submission, we'd like to take a look at these particular bites just to give some more beef to this conversation. Let's take a look.
Ennimi enzaalirwa na kintu kikulu nnyo kubanga olulimi abazungu bakiyita identity. Wogamba nti nze ndi ekikwawula ku mulala nogamba nze ndi musajja muga kati nze Rogers Mugenyi ndi muzzukulu wa Katongole Emulema. Olulimi lwange Luganda era ndwenyumirizaamu era bwe ndukaza ne ndwogera ne mpulira nga mpulira essanyu kubanga neeyagaliramu ekyo kyendi. So olulimi lwange ndwagala nnyo abasoga boogera ennimi zaabwe n'abakyoli n'abateeso ennimi zaabwe baziwe ekitiibwa kubanga olulimi lwe lukwawula ku muntu omulala ne lukuwa ekyo kyoli.
Nikirigiro okwokuba n'omanya nikirigiro nk'okwokuba n'okozesa olulimi ahaka kandi hariho okuba nibarumanya konka batakugamba konka nyonyi negamba olulimi rwanje orunkuzire ningamba.
Mu bifo bingi ebyendawulo mu Arua mu Buganda ayotuuka eyo oli kwenda kalimo akoba oidifa basoga ate tulinamu n'ekyo batukoba mbu titutegeera tutegekerera ku myaka 45 kale wabaamu n'okusomooza nga olina okukyusa ku lulimi.
Kizeewo lwakuba nti Uganda tetulina lulimi lutugatta kyetuyita kyetwandisenga national language ng'ogyeko oluzungu ng'olaba Kenya alina oluswayiri fe abantu bafuna oluzungu nti national language kyova laba nti abantu balese nnyo okwogera ennimi zaabwe ne badda mu luzungu nti omwana ayagala amuyigiriza oluzungu aleme kuswala mu banne nti wakyaza abagenye waka abaana boogera mu luzungu ovuiki ekitali kirungi nti nze wojja owange abaana bajja kubuuza mu lusoga lwakuba ndi musoga ate n'oluzungu baba balumanyi.
Oh yes, that's the discussion we're having today. Why are local languages being eroded? And of course, when you listen to these guys, they raise some very interesting views. One is the fact that our national language is English. Two, and a very interesting point was raised, because when you come into let's say a ministry and you want to get a job and you use your local language, it kind of separates the two. The person that is going to be your boss is from the west and you are from the east. You want to use your local language from the east, he is not going to understand it, and that kind of creates a bridge between you. So people have decided, you know what, let's use a rather common language that me and you both appreciate and understand, and will make things easier.
I get the point.
So, question is it too late? We have a national language, which is English. Our schools are teaching in English. The demand right now is that you learn as much English and French and Chinese as possible, and not your local languages. It looks like our local languages have now been sent to burial, funeral arrangements, and in case you need to say hi to Jaja, you can learn a few words. Hello Jaja, Jemli, Kali Jaja tugenze, that's it. Jaja njagala kulya mere, that's it. So it looks like our local languages have now been pushed to that. Is it too late?
It's not too late, but actually the thing is, we should know when to speak, which language to speak and where. Now when you talk about English, yes, it connects us in the formal way. But my boss, yes, we can understand, we can speak English, but the underlying factor is that my boss can tolerate my culture. And my boss can only tolerate my culture if maybe I have an issue, a cultural issue, only if he understands my culture. I too can tolerate my boss or withstand some of his anger and so on, because I understand his culture. Now I can't understand his culture if I don't know his language, or I don't know the African culture. So these things move together. We are misled. That's where we go wrong when we say that English will connect us. English, yes, they've brought that thing, they call it ethics, they call them virtues, they call them, you know, those names. But those things are actually not tangible, you know, you can't see them. We only see them in the behavior of the person. And these are things that somebody grows up with. Now, where they grow up is where they have these things cultivated. And it is cultivated through the local languages. The person there said, identity. Are we losing our identity? That's the question. By speaking English, are we losing our identity?
But question
we should not lose our identity.
Right, and going by, of course, thank you so much for your views on hashtag Morning at NTV, and also you that is streaming us live on Facebook. We are seeing your comments. So someone is saying, just to add on to what David was asking, this is Douglas Kafumbe. He's saying it's only in Uganda where we don't have a national language. We have different local languages, and the only way of us communicating together is using English. So we've seen countries like, for example, Kenya, Rwanda, Tanzania, just to mention a few, that have a national language, which is over and above their local languages, which is Kiswahili. So as David was asking, is it too late? Because here it seems like our national language, so to speak, is English.
It's not too late. That's why the curriculum about 2012, 2013, the curriculum was reviewed, and they brought in what they called the thematic curriculum, whereby children are supposed to be instructed and taught in their mother tongues, in the local language. Now, there was an excuse here in Kampala that, what is the local language for Kampala? You see? No, they said the local language for Kampala should be English. And that was being pushed by private schools. You know, private schools now have taken over the education sector. And what they dictate is what happens. Government came up with that thing saying, let's have local languages taught. Children should be instructed in the local language of that area from pre-primary up to P3. Then in P4, we introduce Kiswahili to make these children become regional, you see? So, as you said, these things are on paper. But unfortunately, our people don't value these. People are looking at exams, examinations. What is the final outcome? You know, PLE is examined in English.
In English, right.
We said, let's try to introduce what we call continuous assessment tests. Let's not examine a child after 7 years in 2 days. Let's have these continuous assessment tests. But because we've got a bureaucracy that is lazy, they don't want to bring that thing which they think is tedious, continuous assessment tests that every month, every term, try to assess the level of education that this child has achieved, the level of knowledge and skills they have achieved. Now, in this case, language and so on skills. Because we are saying the best way this brain can express itself is through a language. That's when we can know their feelings, we can exchange ideas and so on. So if you don't create the brain to think even in another language, to think in only one language. Actually, unfortunately, it's people in Kampala here who speak 1 or 2 languages. But people outside Kampala speak more than 2 languages.
In case you've just joined us, first of all, you're not too late, but right in time. We have Emmanuel Lubega, who is a Kiswahili language instructor. Today we're taking a look at our local languages and why they are being eroded. We want to get some feedback from you, so get to our social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, to all the guys that are streaming live as well. Thank you very much. Send through your comments and why you think our local languages are being eroded. So, Mr. Emmanuel, Mr. Lubega, like we were, I'm still caught up in that place where I think we are stuck. We are refusing to accept the facts the way they are. And the facts are that now the demands are different, the world has changed, we need to accept and move on instead of being stuck in this place of trying to tag and hold on to something that, like it or not, in the future is not going to work for us. Like I told you before, we're in our schools, you said yes, on paper they're supposed to learn from P1 to P3. Is it happening? No. So if it is on paper and it's not practically happening, why are we then having it on paper? Let's just scrap it. Either we scrap it from the paper or emphasize it to, for every school to go by the books. If it's not happening, then let us not waste a lot of time holding on to things that clearly we have all accepted we don't need anymore. Because I have met parents who, one is coming from the west, the other is coming from the central, and as parents they have agreed we are not going to take these kids through the hassle of learning 2 different languages and 2 different cultures. Let's settle with English. These are the parents. So why are we holding on to something that clearly is
there is something I want you to explain to me. What are you saying? The changing demands. What are those demands you're looking at?
Here are the demands.
Maybe then I'll answer you better.
When you come to NTV for a job, yes, they will always ask if you know any other language. But if you don't, it doesn't
matter.
It doesn't matter. It's not going to harm you in any way.
Yes.
It's not going to harm you in any single way. What if you have the hard work? I think because now we're pushing for the reason why there is a lot of unemployment in this country is because people don't value work, is because people are pushing for that. Let's push for people to be more hardworking, value work, get their hands dirty and all that. Nothing seems to require any of us to know our local languages.
Okay, there is hard work. There is working hard and working smart. So people may be working hard, but are we working smart? Can I, for example, if I'm sent as a journalist, I'm sent to Teso to do a story, can I easily interact with the people there without moving with an interpreter? Sometimes I'm limited. There's a language barrier. And if there is a language barrier, that's why sometimes I might misquote the person or even the person who is interpreting might not give me the actual story this person is telling. But if I had some idea of the language, okay, and that's why I encourage Ugandans, just apart from your own language, learn the other languages. At least have an idea of these languages. It will help you to interact with people, with more people, and you'll get more friends. You'll get more information than when you are only limited to your English. Actually, when you go to some places, and at least you just even greet in their languages. I think you can see the trick that our president uses. When he goes to a place, he speaks something in their language, and those people feel he's part of us.
Right.
You see that?
That's true.
That is the thing. Yes, the demands might be changing, but we can't lose our identity. We can't stop interacting with other people. We have to create platforms for interaction. We have to create platforms for negotiation.
With that said, of course, now I want you to just demystify this. Of course, this is a fear that all the parents have. The modern parents. So-called modern parents. What the fear is, for example, you're saying that on paper, our children are supposed to be taught and instructed in the mother tongue until P3, and then from P4, the regional language, then as we continue. Now, the fear is, if my child is introduced to this mother tongue at a very tender age, that is the only thing they will pick. And then once they get to P4 or thereafter, it will be hard for them to pick these other languages. Is that true or not?
It's not true. Skills and knowledge can be applied in any other language. And the best way you can demonstrate that you have learned a skill or you have knowledge is that you can now use that knowledge in another language. If you cannot, you can only express it in English, then that means you don't have that skill, you don't have the knowledge. And that's why you see our friends, the Japanese will come here, they'll speak English. The French, you know, all this Western world, you'll learn, you'll get to know that at primary level, the so-called primary level there, the children are introduced to another language apart from their own. The French children will also speak English, the German children will also speak English and maybe some Swedish and something. So you see these people right from a tender age, they want their children to embrace 2 or more languages. The reason is that they should be able to interact with other people. They should be able to transfer their skills and knowledge from their own community, because they're not going to just work within that community and move elsewhere.
Does that mean that instead of then putting it in paper that our children need to be taught in one mother tongue until they get to P3, we change it such that they need to be taught in maybe 3 languages, like you say?
No, we may create some confusion
to the children.
Yes, but then the thing is, in the brain, the child has acquired this language. The assumption is that the child has acquired this language from home. They should be able to express their knowledge and the experience through their mother tongue first. It has been scientifically proved that if somebody can express themselves in their mother tongue, then they can actually even transfer that idea to another person. Then they can also understand and tolerate the other person.
So what you're saying is that it will be easy for the children to pick up English at P4.
Yeah, it will be very easy, because now even the teacher the child will now get to understand that this, I can interpret this from English to my mother tongue. Now, if you can't transfer an idea from one language to another, then you don't have that idea with you. Okay?
All right.
And that is the thing. And that's why you see these guys we say we are following are doing it the other way around. Here, we are limited now as Ugandans when we say it's only English. That's why when you cross the border to Tanzania, language barrier. Rwanda, you can't even speak French, language barrier. It's because you've not adopted that kind of thing. But it becomes even easier for you to learn another language if you easily transited. You had that transition from your local language to English.
Okay.
But now it's very difficult for people to learn even a foreign language because they have stuck in English right from from birth.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Interesting conversation we're having this morning. Mr. Emmanuel Lubega, a Kiswahili instructor, and we're talking about local languages and why they are being eroded. I hope you picked something from it. If you have anything that you want to share with us, of course, please come and share with us on our social media platforms. The hashtag is morning@ntv, and tell us, why do you think local languages are being eroded? And of course, like all the questions that have been raised today, we have asked very many questions. One, do we need the local languages? Should we, have what is on paper, and then the other stuff that is practically happening? How do we deal with the whole conversation of local languages and them being taught in school? Is it of any use? I tell you that this topic is one that you get started and you can't get done with.
And maybe you can just allow me just a parting shot. First of all, I'd like to appreciate the Acholi community. The Acholi community, these children, their children, there's a generation that lived in the camps for a long time, and their language was being eroded by these children. They had stopped calling their parents their actual names. They said J.E. for Zay and so on. But now they came up with a language committee, the Acholi community, and they said we should not let our children lose the language. They began teaching them. People like us who did not learn within our own communities. For me, for example, I went to Kisoko in Tororo. I could speak Jopadol up to now. When I meet a Luo from Kenya, I meet an Acholi, because it's Luo, I can easily interact with them. That's the kind of thing we want to build among our people.
Okay, all right. And speaking of social media, as you bring this to a close, thank you so much for your feedback. And Mr. Chiruta Morshid, he's saying Mambo. He's telling you mambo. You can respond.
Poa, okay. But that's a little bit,
It's slang, eh?
Yeah, it's a little bit slang like Kiswahili, and that's why I always try to avoid it. Even I know some of the students that participate in our Kiswahili class on Nile Avenue. The free Kiswahili classes we are offering. It's because I don't want them to learn that slang.
Okay.
I want them to learn proper Kiswahili.
Sanifu. Okay, all right. So he's saying hi to you, saying mambo, and you've responded, Poa. We're also having Kasiwe Jr. saying good morning to you too. Mr. Douglas Kafumbe is saying it's all about the parents' mindset, like you said, the so-called new generation parenting. Yeah, we need to change that. Okay. Madam Nora, she's saying that's a great topic. Thank you so much, NTV. Thank you so much for being part of this. We are also having Douglas Kafumbe, like I said, he was saying that, you know what, we are caught in the middle because we don't have a national language. That's why we are resorting to English. But he did respond to that.
We have a second official language, Kiswahili.
Okay, we also have Mr. Mathias is saying segregation is the order of the day. This needs to stop. Also, Esther, you're saying, she's agreeing with you. She's saying right on point. So thank you so much for coming in studios, Mr. Lubega Emmanuel. He's a Kiswahili language instructor. You've heard him speak Swahili, and also he is a journalist, seasoned journalist, over 12 years in the practice. Thank you so much for coming in studios.
My pleasure, Miss Odera. David, this guy.
You had to live on that.
Yes.
On a high.
On a high.
Yeah. I mean,
okay, Morning at 10 TV still continues. Don't change that dial.
Thank you.
You're watching Morning at NTV. The Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group is pleased to invite the general public to watch exciting discussions about the prospects of Uganda's economic growth in view of the upcoming financial year 2019-2020. Be sure not to miss exciting panelists as they discuss financing for rural economic transformation.